Blau und weiß sein Leben lang. Hallo, meine Leute. Willkommen zum einzigen Schalke Podcast auf English. That's right, folks. Officially the world's only English Schalke podcast. This is episode 120 of Schalke America, and I'm your host, Richard Kharman. Joining me on the show, as always, is co-host Jack Mangan. Jack, how are we doing on this evening?
Well, I exist, which is more than you can say for Schalke's attack at the moment. So I guess I have that going for me. How are you, sir?
I'm doing all right. Yeah, I'm doing all right. No doubt about that. I have to agree with that comment there. But before we go any further, we've been getting a lot of love lately. On all social media, YouTube, everything. Obviously the English speaking audiences are our main core, and people give us love all the time. But I want to give a shout out to some of the German followers who just happen to find SchalkeMerica and been following along with us, giving a lot of praise to us. We've been thanking like guys like Tony Wegscheidler and just several others that have been very vocal about saying they're more of the listen to the German podcast, but they listen to us because they find our information incredible, and they enjoy what we say and what we do. So give a big shout out to them. It's nice, very cool to hear when you hear stories about that, Jack, when people give you shout outs, especially the unexpected ones, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've said this before, but I feel like you and I would probably be doing this to some extent, even if we were shouting into the void, which to some extent we are anyway. But yeah, when we do get feedback from people around the world, especially as opposed to people in our own bubble in America, it's always nice because the idea that we have anything of value to provide to the larger fan community, no matter where they are, is always humbling and nice to hear. So yeah, we always appreciate those comments.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. And let's get right into it because Schalke waited until after our podcast to release the announcement of their new manager, Dimitrios Gramosis, and it's not unexpected. I mean, this is, I guess, of the one between him and Baumgart, I think this is the guy we were leaning towards, right? At least I was. And so it wasn't too much of a surprise, but still, anytime you got a new man coming in, it kind of just wakes you up and kind of resets the button. What were your thoughts upon his initial hiring?
Yeah, and it's a name that we had heard before because I think he was kind of floating around before we hired Manuel Baum as well.
Right.
So he had been clearly kind of in contention in conversations with the Schalke hierarchy for quite a while. As we've said a couple times over the previous podcasts, beggars can't be choosers at this point. Schalke's not in a good position, and it's not a position that figures to get better anytime soon. If anything, it's only going to become more difficult as the finances continue to be a problem unless we find a way to turn that around. But despite it, Bundesliga is not going to help that. So it's not an attractive job, and I mean mid-season too, when you're basically guaranteed to get relegated at this point. Almost, it's you kind of have to pick from whoever's interested at that point and try to find the best person. So I'm not trying to say that Gratis isn't qualified or anything like that, but I guess my thoughts are I don't think there's many managerial candidates that are viable that I would have been super excited about at this point anyway. It's just kind of who can steer us to the end of the season with as much pride remaining as possible, I think.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And not to deviate too far off of this real quick, but there was obviously the rumors always speculate around, and a name that's been in and out of the Schalke sphere, I guess, if you will, Ralf Rangnick. He was on interview this weekend, and they asked him about what's his next job going to be. And he said, I'm going at one of the great big clubs that has a great stadium, and it left you thinking, oh, maybe he wants to take a Schalke job eventually, especially if you're going to fight the Bundesliga. It's going to be open, maybe. Who knows? We'll see. But back to the current manager. It's somebody who we knew little about. We did try to dig deep and try to figure out the tactics, looking back his Darmstadt days. We posted a video on YouTube. If you haven't checked it out yet, check it out. Talks about the 4-2-3-1 that he likes to do. But we wanted to learn more about him, and we reached out to a colleague of ours who is familiar with this fight, the Bundesliga, Louis Ostrovsky. He talked to us a little bit about him and talked about how he was very well respected in this fight, the Bundesliga, a manager that many people held in high regards. And also, we saw some other people tweeting out how, despite his 4-2-3-1 formation that he did use, Gramosis, that is, at the end of the season, when it was confirmed that he was leaving Darmstadt, he pretty much said, F it, let's change it up. And he went to a 3-5-2 formation just to see something more attacking. And it ended up working for Darmstadt, and they ended up becoming more attacking at the end of the season, and they played very well. So, a reason I mentioned that is because heading to this game, we weren't sure what was going to how the lineups were going to shake out, right, Jack? We thought maybe it was going to be a 4-2-3-1. All indications say that's what the lineup he was going to go with. Looking at the lineup of our team, I should say, obviously with all the injuries going on and whatnot, the lineup that came out was it's like a 3-4-1-2, 3-5-2 at variation, sometimes a 4-2-3-1. But the lineup was in goal, Frederick Renov, obviously due to the injury of Ralph Fairman, and also I think Longer might have had injury as well. The three center backs would be Timo Becker, Mustafi, THIAW. You also had William at the right wing, Çalhanoğlu playing the left wing, Kolasinac actually playing as a pivot, as well as Suat Serdar. To start the game, the 10 was Amin Harit, with Matthew Hoppe and Benito Rahman. But then just before kickoff, Jack, there was news that there was an injury that picked up, and we had a guy we've been longing for all season long finally made an appearance.
Yeah, so that was the big news leading up to it, obviously, is the injury list at the moment at Schalke is insanely long. Does not speak well to what's been going on there behind the scenes in terms of, the training staff and maybe some of our general training under Christian Gross even potentially. But yeah, so Harit going out right before the start of what's honestly, if we're being serious, a relegation 6-pointer against Mainz is a huge blow. It does allow for Can Bosdogan to come into the lineup, as you said, something that we've been, at least I have been pushing for to some extent. Not the way that you would like to see him get involved, but still nice to see him get some minutes. And then, I think the two other big talking points are, as you said, Zad Kolasinac moving into a defensive midfield position from left back, and then Kerem Çalhanoğlu getting his debut at left back. So here, I have mixed feelings on this overall. On the one hand, we've been talking for most of the early part of the season leading up to the winter break about one of the biggest positions of need being our left and right back positions. Our depth and quality at fullback wasn't what it needed to be, and we thought that was having issues in a variety of areas, including going forward. And then in the winter break, you see us bring in two of those players, Kolasinac as a left back, and then William as a right back. And then in this game, you're seeing neither of those people playing in those positions, which is fine. I mean, I can understand the argument to be made for Zale going into the midfield potentially, but I guess I just feel like if you brought him in because you wanted to improve that position, and then you're pulling him into the midfield, which is kind of where we're loaded in terms of that's where most of our quality is in the midfield. Yeah. And then you're putting, a young kid as a debut at left back. I mean, yeah, so I like seeing debuts. I think that only makes more sense as we continue, as the season goes on. If relegation gets secured, then yeah, play the kids who are going to be here on contract, get them experience, and try to get ready for the Zweite Bundesliga. But in general, I found that to be potentially not maximizing what Kolasinac can bring to the table in that position. I thought it was strange, but I'm open to it, and I'm interested to see it again against a team that isn't Mainz. But yeah.
Well, we got Wolfsburg next, and they're ranked third in the table, so I don't know if we want to see it against them. But I think to your 2 points there, maybe the reason why we've not seen him as much at right back is the emergence of Timo Becker and his consistency at right back, even though he kind of played center back ish today. So that could have something to do with it. I don't know. Left back, yeah. I mean, you would think it would be Kola playing at left back, but maybe one of the positions we've been struggling mightily, it seems like, as of late, has been the double pivot, right? It's usually one or both the guys have been struggling mightily, and maybe Gramosi's thought that Kola being back there would maybe help a little bit. I agree it's out of position, and maybe it'll work going forward. Who knows? Maybe needs more time. He obviously picked up the yellow right away, so he's got that defensive midfielder mentality there. A little early for my taking, but it was an interesting lineup. And then with Can Bosdogan, we were excited to see him play, and it seemed like every time we had seen him play, he seemed very mature for the lack of playing time he's had. Though in this game, I think it stuck out like how rusty he's been. He was missing a lot of passes in this game. Didn't look like his normal stuff, and that could just be no pitch time, right?
First of all, I mean, I think you're right about the Becker point, by the way. I think that is probably to explain that, because right around the time we brought William in is when you saw Timo Becker really starting to put in some consistent performances. So I think he has played himself into the lineup. But and I understand like the logic behind the Kolasinac move in particular, try to beef up that midfield. I guess the concerns I have are it's putting a lot of pressure on our left back position doing that, because Ochipka hasn't been what we thought he was going to be, and then you have a young kid. But also, Kolasinac's best attributes have never been the accuracy of his passing or like the weight of his touch, that kind of stuff. And I mean, if you're going to partner him with Suat Serdar and then have Kolasinac be the one who stays back and is just your destroyer, and then, you know, Serdar can dribble around and try to connect, which is kind of what was happening. I can understand that working, but you do wonder if that's almost too much of a downgrade from, like, you know, Stambouli and Mascarell. But at the same time, it's hard to point to anybody and be like, given the performances this season, be like, that's a significant upgrade. That's a significant upgrade. Everyone's been struggling at times. As far as the Champ Bosdoin thing goes, yeah, I think he got off to a pretty rough start in especially the first 10-15 minutes, I think.
Yeah.
And I think probably the biggest moment was we had a nice counterattacking opportunity early on, where he had multiple options and just played a pass that was cut out by a defender for almost really no reason. Really should have connected that. And that could have been, honestly, one of our better chances of the game if that pass had gone through. So I do think he settled down and was okay at parts in the rest of the half. But yeah, I mean, inexperienced in general, certainly rusty for lack of game time. Hopefully it's not the last we see of him. I still think he deserves some minutes and some cameos in the second half, maybe potentially. Or if you want to move him deeper in the midfield, if you're not going to be playing Stambouli and Mascarell as well, because part of me feels like he might be better there as opposed to you know, an attacking midfield role.
Yeah, we also got to see Gianluca Schuler towards that second half, and he looked pretty decent, I thought, overall. But you know, we had it wasn't much to talk about in this game, despite the overwhelming stats towards Mainz. I mean, really, Renov wasn't really troubled too much. A few times the defense did break down. I thought Renov was there making big saves. There's a reason why he made Team of the Week, along with Mustafi and THIAW, which we'll get to in a second. I thought the two probably best opportunities we had in the game offensively. One was early in the first half. Mustafi off of a set piece or a swinger or a corner or something. Good header. It was just a great reaction save by the keeper. I thought it could have been better angle, but whatever. It was a good play by Mustafi. And then late in the game,
nice ball in from Bosdoin, by the way.
Yes, absolutely.
And then, actually, what you want to speak to real quick, just because
please.
We've been talking about how Harit continues to take set pieces for us when he's playing, and how at no time has he ever really seemed convincing on those.
Yeah.
And then, you know, and I'm sure there's data that suggests that if you play it low and hard, that if it gets past the first man, that leads to better opportunities. I mean, who knows? But like, the problem is, like, the first ball almost never gets past the defender on these set pieces. And so to actually see Bosdoin come in, play a nice ball that has a lot of, like, you know, hang time enough for like somebody to make a run and get a good contact was nice to see. Insanely small sample size, but still nice.
I think you know what you mentioned there is it's critical about the reason Bosdoin kind of got comfortable is he started doing these in-swinging passes off set pieces, and as they started doing, you know, really getting dangerous, he got more and more comfortable. It seemed like that kind of seemed to relax him, because I think he was very you know, shy and worried and overthinking it in the beginning stages, but once he started doing the set pieces, he kind of calmed down, because they were very threatening set pieces. And like I said, Mustafi almost scored on the one. And I thought, you know, overall from set piece ability, I thought that's something we had been lacking for a long time, and it looked like something we hadn't seen in maybe a season since Caligieri's been here. A good cross in. And then you know, that was one opportunity. You know, the second probably best opportunity we had was in the second half. Serdar running up the middle and creating a little half space and taking a shot off and forced the keeper to make a low save. But other than that, I mean, it was pretty much all Mainz with the ball. Like I said,
I mean, those were literally our only shots, I believe.
Yeah, you might be right.
No, I think we had two in the entire game, and like, so, and the Serdar one, still, but I mean, that was from ridiculously far out, was it not?
It was.
So, I mean, the expected goals for both teams in this game were under one. So, I mean, it kind of speaks to the quality of the
0.2 or something like that for us.
Yeah. But at least Mainz had a volume of shots, even if they weren't particularly good. But just the idea that Schalke can go through 90 minutes against the 17th place opponent and only get 2 shots off is terrifying to me. And speaks to something that we've been talking about for a long time, which is, yes, the defense is a problem. And if you're shipping 4 or 5 goals a game, there's really another conversation that you need to have, because you're not going to score enough to, you know, to overcome that and get your results. But you know, fine, we see a clean sheet. Keep in mind the opponent, right? But we get a clean sheet. But if you have 2 shots on target, you're not going to get points and win games either. So I don't know how you fix this. I don't know if you can at this point. But it's frustrating to watch us against an opponent that's that poor and struggle that much going forward.
Yeah, the one caveat I could take away, and it's a very small caveat, is that Mainz has been playing like a relegation team trying to survive lately, so they've been playing a lot better. So, but you know, two things we saw that were affected by the new manager. I think the defense, Mustafi is his best game he's played for us since he's been with us. THIAW, another outstanding game. Becker was pretty good as well. And then also so defensively, and then also set pieces. I think our set pieces were a lot better than they had been in the past. So that's two small things to hang your head on, but still, yeah, we're a long way from being anything that is even respectable Bundesliga club at this moment. Talk about the defense. I did say Mustafi had been playing better. He was one of the players of the week, as was Malik THIAW. I thought Malik THIAW had an excellent game. There's one play in the game where I think both he and Becker, we were talking about this live during the game, how they both stepped up. So Becker kind of slipped on a play on the right-hand side while he tried to step up, and then THIAW tried to step up to force to put pressure on the guy, and no one backed him up, really. And they had a great opportunity, but it just missed wide. I think it's a toe poke by, I forget who it was, for Mainz. That was the one moment that really scared me, but I thought THIAW was composed back there, looked wise beyond his age, and Becker, again, and two guys there with solid performances. They're getting better and better each week, and hopefully we can hold on to them for next season.
Yeah, that's the chance. I think it was that may have been their highest XG chance of the game. Actually,
I think it was two guys sliding in or something.
I think a lot of Schalke supporters would agree at the moment that one of the only bright spots for us is Malik THIAW, if we can hold on to him going into this fight to Bundesliga, because he has been fairly consistent. It also seems to make the individual mistakes less than we've been seeing from other players at times. As
What's up, Renee?
Yeah, how are we doing, fellow sufferers? We're still here.
We're here.
That's all we're doing. That center back pairing in this game. Once again, I want to keep the opponent in mind. That I don't want to get too carried away. Like, clean sheet, great defensive performance against 17 place Mainz. Yeah, exactly. But even so, it was solid. You got to give credit where credit's due. We've seen plenty of games where the defense has been worse than it needed to be, and here it was pretty good. So, and also, it didn't have a lot to do, but Frederick Runov, once again, looked fairly composed back there. And I like him a lot. Obviously, it's if Fairman's in decent form, it's hard to pick against him just because of what he means to this club and provides from a leadership perspective. But I think Frederick Runov's probably had his number all season, and once again looked pretty decent back there. Yeah,
like I think defensively we didn't give up much. Yes, they had a lot of shots and whatnot, but nothing really threatening. And when the times it did get threatened, Runov stood on his head. They had a great save in like 82nd minute that really could have ended the game right there. There were some things to be happy about, but for the most part, no, not really. It's a boring 0-0 game. Really, nothing going on either end. Definitely, we did set up in that 3-5-2 there. Gramosi's kind of went with a Darmstadt at the end of his tenure there, hopefully to add offensive output, and it didn't really do anything for us. So the question is, how do we rebound from that? How do we create more opportunities?
I'm interested in your opinions on William at this point. I feel like the last couple games he has really been somebody who's been jumping off the screen for me in a negative way. In this particular, I feel like a lot of times when he picks up the ball in transition, he doesn't have the pace to advance it. He gets swallowed up pretty quickly. And also his delivery has been pretty poor. I want to say that he had like 50-something% passing in this game, which is just horrendous. And was in my opinion a factor in why we had as few shots on goal as we did, just because of the number of transition moves that he killed by playing an inaccurate pass. Not that it's entirely his fault for the movement that's going on in front of him, but that William at a right wing thing, that experiment to me is rapidly becoming less interesting, and I'm almost kind of done with it.
Ludwig, so I thought Çalhanoğlu got better as the game went on. He started obviously, very nervous as being his first game, but he grew into the game. I thought William, I agree. He doesn't have the pace. His crossing ability has been lacking. He does have some like good technical ability, like really close, like quick passes and stuff like that, but that's about it. And it's not really contributing offensively. And I think I have to agree with you about that's kind of the root of why a good reason why we didn't have many opportunities coming from that side. At times, the best times he looked was when he kind of moved in, let Becker swing out on the right-hand side, and Becker would take those opportunities. And then we had some opportunities, but you don't want a guy who's playing kind of a center back-ish role to do that and then have to, lug his way back there if you're not going to help him defensively. So yeah, they're going to figure that out. I mean, I don't know what the answer is there. Maybe the answer is you put Schoff back there or somebody or I don't know, somebody else with a little bit more pace, I think.
And I get, like, I understand that we just don't have that many compelling options. Like, there just aren't that many people that you can look to and, be excited about putting him back in the lineup. But I don't know. I feel like, I feel like, especially if, let's say we're going with a 4-2-3-1, I still feel like I'd kind of rather have maybe Rahman and Harit on the wings with Becker at right back than William. I don't know. It's tough. Rahman is frustrating at times too. At least he puts in the shift. I mean, he was killing himself, I feel like, in this Mainz game, trying to track stuff down.
You think
with the non-existent service that there was, but
you think Serdar could play in the middle with Harit and Rahman on the wings?
I absolutely think Suat Serdar could play in the number 10 position. I've been surprised that he's been shoehorned into like a double pivot as much as he has this season, which seems to be a slightly less natural.
They've been forcing that Goretzka role on him, it seems like, right? And they did the same thing with McKennie. And I don't know if that's his most natural position, I guess. I do want to see him play more offensively because the half season we were good under Wagner. Mm-hmm. He and Harit were lighting it up and they were going forward, and maybe we need him to do that and maybe sit William for at least a game or two to give these guys an opportunity if Harit is healthy. Renee is saying Becker and THIAW are going to be the new Hovidis and Matip. Yeah, I mean, they're already becoming fan favorites right away. So not going to disagree with that comment there, but yeah, we need to find a way offensively to create more opportunities. If we, like you said, if you can't do it against a team like Mainz, how are you going to do it against Wolfsburg? Yeah,
and once again, it's one thing to not score; it's another thing to only really get a couple of shots off in the entire game. It's so difficult for us to advance the ball into the final third and to do anything with it. It's honestly pretty incredible. And credit to Suat Serdar because the number of times he was on the ball and was trying to dribble through people and just didn't have a lot of outlets, but yeah, it's shocking that we've become that bad, particularly in transition, which has always been something that we can kind of fall back on even when our offense isn't firing on all cylinders. It's just tough for us to even get out of our own half right now. Yeah, and it's still too early to judge the manager. Like I said, there was some positives defensively and on set pieces. Hopefully, we get to see. I got to find a way to get either Boswan back on the pitch just so he can get to set piece abilities or someone else to take it because and once again he was not particularly good in the first half. I don't think he was horrible for the entire half. I think he got better as it went on, but I could be wrong about this, but I still feel like you would just swap Serdar and Bosdowan where they're playing. Yeah, I agree. I feel because once again the things that attracted us, I think both the Bosdowan as a player initially were in possession, sort of in the midfield. He's fairly composed on the ball. It's not that he's playing ridiculous passes to people all the time or like looks like he has an eye for goal. It's that he's able to facilitate possession, I feel like, better than some other people have been. But then when you're putting him a little bit higher in a team that lacks so much service, because like realistically, what are Hoppy and Benito Rahman and Bosdowan in this game supposed to be doing? Or William with how difficult it is for us to advance in the first place. So I don't know. Yeah, something to consider. I hate bringing in the mention of the football god Max Meyer, but that's something that he did very well. Is that he didn't do anything too flashy, but he kept the possession, he kept the ball moving, and I think Bosdowan has those characteristics where he could do that. And I agree with you. If you push up Serdar, soft him out, you could have a potential of creating some kind of offensive opportunities. Bosdowan, I think, has a lot to bring to the table, obviously with the composure and the distribution ability, but also frees up maybe guys like Serdar from his defensive responsibilities, gives him more opportunity, attack forward, and maybe that creates more chances overall. It should be interesting. Obviously we're not comparing the talent of these players to the people, but I think that makes sense if you put Bosdowan in sort of a Meyer to like Serdar's Goretzka in the midfield, where Serdar's able to maraud forward a little bit more in transition and end up on the back of things. So it was nice to at least see him, though. It's just unfortunate that I had to come off of Harit picking up that injury. He was training at least, I think, today individually, whereas Kolasinac was back in full team training. Hopefully we get Harit for the next match, although I'm not sure how that's looking at the moment. Yeah, and I feel like I saw Harit moving around a little bit after, like in the second half, just warming up, trying to get loose, I think. So that's a good sign, at least, hopefully. And hopefully we get to see the Hunter very soon, too. We need his help offensively. I think he's our all-time leading scorer against Mainz. He has like 6 goals and 1 assist in like 800-something minutes against Mainz. So it would have been nice to have him in this one, unfortunately. Yeah, it would have. Just come in late, hop in there, Yeah, one of the scores of Schalke players currently injured with various problems. So yeah, it's ridiculous amount of players. And this is an interesting topic. We talk about all the injuries that Schalke's had, but what we saw in that game, and many people have commented on it, was the guys just falling down like flies after 60, 70 minutes. Marie had Marie in her weekly roundup for the Bundesliga. She's talked about how usually if you're playing in like extra time and it's a big game at the end of the season, your guys are falling down because they're tired. It's a long season. Not in the middle of the game. It's very
it's very odd looking.
Extremely concerning. And keep in mind, we're already out of the cup. There's no European football this year. So in terms of like our fixture load and fixture congestion, as opposed to previous seasons, significantly less. And like, sure, this was a Friday game as opposed to a Saturday or Sunday. But like, yeah, the number of people pulling up with cramps and other problems is, I mean, you can't tell me this is just chance at this point. And I'm not trying to like, harp on people, but there's something going on with our training regimen and also probably our physio staff that needs to be looked at going into next season.
Renee says Paciencia might be back soon, which would be big for us. I think just to have another body out there. He goes, "What are your thoughts on him?" Didn't mean to hit sense. I think he would. I think he would help offensively automatically. He's got some good technical ability we talked about in the past. His finishing ability maybe he's lacking a little bit, but at this point we need a big body in there, someone who can hold the ball up. Add something. Hoppy can't do it all, and he's not.
Yeah. I guess my initial impression of him when he came here was that I found him to be like a slightly less mobile and fluid player than I remember him being. But
yeah,
as with him and so many people, we didn't, I feel like, get enough of a sample of him before his injury to really figure out what he was going to be able to bring to the table. I mean, like there was that Marcu Paciencia partnership for a bit, and both of those players have kind of been out of the picture now for a while. So, yeah, I mean, he seems like a good dude, though. He seems to probably trying to stay positive and support the team while he's working on rehab and everything. And if he is able to get back into a match before the end of the season, you certainly have to take it at this point. And that's not that Hoppy is, it's difficult to criticize any striker in this team at the moment. And I don't want to be, go overboard on that just because of how bad we are. But you certainly wouldn't say no to it. You'd certainly take it, I think, with open arms if he came back.
Any healthy body will take it this one, right? Yeah. Of all the negativity that's been going on around the club lately, some positivity, obviously all the shirts by the fans, putting a great display in the stands. That was awesome to see. Also, Peter Canabo having some great words, post match. They gave you a lot of confidence, as well as Gerald Asamoah has some nice words, some great words as well. So a lot of the veterans. I think Kevin Karani had something to say recently too. Some good stuff. So we're trying to get together, stay together. Gemeinsam, keep everyone staying positive. I think is the important thing at the moment. And what was the other thing? It was
exactly like to one extent coming off the back of Christian Gross's time in charge, which was a manager that's increasingly looking like, in hindsight, was maybe not in the right place to be prepared to take on this job at that moment. Certainly you would expect an upgrade in coaching and maybe some new tactical ideas that could help turn things around. But I do think, given the point we are at the season, it's much less about that and more about what kind of personality Gramatzis is and what he can do to the psychology of this team. Because as we've said numerous times, this group of players has now had several coaches to try to fix this. It's on the players at this point.
Yeah.
And the only thing I think the coach can really do is just try to make sure they're organized and in the right frame of mind to go out and compete and be resilient, in the face of what might come over the course of 90 minutes. So that's what we have to take a look at, keep an eye out for. And you know what? Fairly well organized, clean sheet in the first match. So off to a decent start, relatively speaking, I guess.
Yeah. And last time we played Wolfsburg was in the cup, I believe, and we played them well. It was 1-0 game. I think Weghorst maybe got the lone goal on that one. But we need to make an improvement on that. I mean, it's going to be a difficult ask, right? I mean, the rest of the season is going to be a difficult ask. We need to end this on a positive note and, get some good mojo going into next season. I think that's, the main thing. And looking towards using some of the youngsters, THIAW, Becker, Bozdogan, Chalanolo maybe next year, Hoppy, and Schuler. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it ends. We'll see what happens to Wolfsburg. That's the more pressing thing at the moment. So, anything in particular they're going to look for that game?
Just hopefully we don't ship 3 or 4 goals. Yeah, if it's an effort that's close to what the DFB Pokal effort was, I think we'd be happy. I mean, obviously it wouldn't be the right result, but at least in terms of performance, it'd be a performance that we could be satisfied with as a fan base, I think.
I want to see continued improvement on not only defensively, set pieces, show some offense. Would be nice, I think.
Any offense,
right. A shot on goal. But I think, keep seeing progress. I want to see progress, whether it's a loss, long as it's a close one, like you mentioned. I think that's important for us, especially psychologically, because that seems to be one of the biggest things for us amongst the many things that's wrong with us, right? It's psychological is having the right mind frame to play and do what you can, because no one disagrees that the talent isn't there. They can win, but they're not. And they got to jump over that huge hurdle. So anyway, I mean, I don't know. Not much more to talk about, really. It was this blah game. New manager. We didn't have much time to really see him, so we'll get to see more about him this next game. Happy International Women's Day to all the women around the world. Anything else, Jack, before we wrap this bad boy up? Because it's a short episode. I don't know. We don't need to drag us on any longer.
We should have had Marie on this episode instead of last episode. But
yeah, right. We had more to talk about last.
Yeah. I think that's about sums it up. No need in talking another 10-15 minutes about the Mainz game. That was pretty non-football. So,
We can talk about Der Klassiker. No, just kidding.
And notice, I don't know if you noticed this on Twitter, but that's a good point to bring up. Saw very little gloating from Schalke supporters after that result, at least in comparison. Maybe I'm not on the right part of Twitter, but like in comparison to what I was seeing.
There's no room to gloat, right? Because what are they going to say? Oh, you're in last place. Who the fuck are you, right?
Well, I'm saying it's when you talk about the celebrations that they had after beating up on one of the worst sides in Bundesliga history, which is us at the moment.
You would think there'd be some.
Yeah, I'm glad that we can provide a temporary distraction from their perennial underachievement. I'm glad that we can provide that service to them because at the end of the day, we all know they're going to come up short against Bayern. Not that brings me joy either, but
sure.
So there's my gloating now for the.
There you go.
To make up for the lack of it that I saw. Anyway,
there you go. So I mean, everyone's disappointed, right? Because Bayern are still in first, and then so Leipzig are not in first. So you got the bittersweet thing there, right? So I guess both teams can't lose the title this year, right? So anyway, on that note, Jack, not you, but everyone else, keep tuning in each week as we bring you the latest from the Royal Blues. We want to thank Schalke for all the tidbits of our podcast today. If there's anything you want us to discuss or bring up or do a video on, let us know at SchalkeMerica on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, wherever you can find us on social media. Jack, any shout-outs tonight?
One of my buddies is actually in Nashville right now, so maybe he can head over to NBC4 Nashville and ask why they haven't acknowledged us at this point. But I can follow up on that. No, beyond that, I'm good, man.
Where can our followers find you on social media?
JM Mangan, JMMANGAN on Twitter.
Very good. As always, you can follow me at R_KHARMAN on anywhere on social media. Until the next pod comes, my friends, stay ready, and we'll be with you soon. Tschüss.